All right, welcome. I think we have 7 or 8 bills here today, starting with Departmental Bill 1503. Secretary Grady. Hey, and please bring your team up, whoever you want.
Am I supposed to touch this? Or it's right, it's on. It's okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Helene Grady, and I serve as Secretary of the Department of Budget and Management. Here with me today is Neil Desai, our Chief HR Officer, Dana Phillips, our Director of Legislative and Intergovernmental Relations, and Danielle Miller, an Assistant Attorney General assigned to DBM. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for sponsoring our legislation today. As you know, Maryland is preparing to launch the Family and Medical Insurance, or FAMLI program, which provides workers with paid leave to care for themselves or a family member. Under the current law, employers in the state of Maryland, including the state government, are required to begin providing FAMLI leave benefits to employees on July 1st, 2026. With this date in mind, DBM began preparing for the implementation of the leave program for executive branch state employees this past fall. In particular, the administration engaged in bargaining with each of the labor unions to reach an agreement on the benefits of the leave program. This bill, HB 1503, is the outcome of the negotiations and the state's leave proposal for paid family and medical leave that not only complies with but exceeds the requirements of Maryland's Family and Medical Insurance Program. Under this bill, all state employees in the executive branch, including temporary employees, are eligible for paid family and medical leave as of July 1st, 2026. And I do want to emphasize that we are continuing on the path of implementing on that original date of July 1st, 2026 for state employees. This will be at the employee's regular rate of pay. Unlike the Family and Medical Insurance Program, state employees will not have to make contributions from their pay. Further, state employees will be eligible for leave benefits as of July 1st, 2026, as I just mentioned, or their first day of employment. There is no eligibility criteria based on previous hours worked. The state's proposed paid family and medical leave mirrors the Family and Medical Insurance Program with regard to the reasons an employee can take leave, such as welcoming a new child, caring for their own or a family member's serious health condition, or making arrangements for a family member's military deployment, as well as the job protections that are provided to an employee who takes the leave. The state's paid family and medical leave, like the Family and Medical Insurance leave, will run concurrent with an employee's eligibility under the Federal Family and Medical Leave Act, or FMLA. Finally, and importantly, this bill repeals the state personnel and pensions provisions related to parental leave, which is the current leave program that's on the books for employees who are experiencing a new child. And that's really important. By repealing the current parental leave, that made it much more feasible for state agencies to absorb this broader and more generous new FAMLI leave benefit. And we are proposing to repeal the current parental leave for the simple reason that the proposed leave program will allow employees to receive the same amount of paid leave without having to exhaust all of their accumulated personal and annual leave before accessing leave benefits. In addition to complying with the requirement of the Family and Medical Insurance Program passed by the legislature, DBM believes this proposed paid family and medical leave will be a valuable tool for attracting and retaining employees with the state government. And we are particularly excited about that aspect of it and the ability to roll out this new benefit effective July 2026. I do want to mention that we are proposing a few amendments to the bill. And if it's okay with you, I could ask Danielle on our team to just briefly summarize what those amendments reflect.
Good afternoon. These amendments are technical in nature, and throughout the bill there are 5 instances in which we will be proposing to strike department and substitute the employee's appointing authority. This set of amendments shifts the decision-making from the DBM, Department of Budget and Management, to each employee's appointing authority, to those who directly supervise and understand the employee's role to make informed decisions about leave requests. These amendments conform the paid family and medical leave process to the existing federal FMLA process that is executed by the appointed authorities. We are also proposing an amendment for the appeal process. This amendment clarifies that employees who appeal a denial of their leave request will follow the procedures established by the Secretary of Labor for the Family and Medical Leave Insurance Program. This provides employees with recourse under the process established by labor's regulations if they believe their leave was unfairly denied. We are also proposing an amendment to clarify application year. This amendment changes the definition of application year from for which paid family and medical leave is approved to in which paid family and medical leave begins. This is a technical amendment that conforms the definition of application year to the definition of application year in the Department of Labor's Family and Medical Leave Insurance Regulations. And then finally, there is a technical amendment to push back the implementation date for the law from October 1st, 2025 to July 1st, 2026 to ensure continuity of leave for employees who are eligible for parental leave and would be eligible for the state's paid family and medical leave.
Thanks, Danielle. We're happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the Secretary or her team? Delegate Reist.
Chairman, it looks like there's a couple of amendments, both from MACO and MML. Have you guys had a chance to look at those, and can you comment on whether or not they can be?
So I'm going to defer to my team, Dana and Danielle, who I believe have had a chance to look at those closely. I am aware of the amendments. My understanding, and they should correct me if I have this wrong, is that the amendments really relate to the Department of Labor program, not necessarily this bill, which is specific to just state employee leave benefits. And so I do want to clarify that this bill is not proposing any change in the timeline for implementing on behalf of state employees. And if I understand correctly, I think the MACO and MML amendments might relate primarily to the other bills that have been introduced this session by both Department of Labor and the administration, as well as Senator Hershey, if I understand correctly, related to timeline on implementation of the FAMLI program more generally outside
And both
of
MACO
state
and MML are signed up to testify, so we can get clarification from them. If it does affect the Department of Labor, that's probably more of an ECM question than
Yeah,
us
I think
anyway.
that's
but
right.
Any other clarity you want to give?
Do you guys want to add anything?
I agree with your points.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you all.
Cool. Thank you.
Do you have a number of witnesses, all favorable with amendments? Denise Gilmore, Bill George, David Johnson, Michael Sanderson. Go ahead, Denise.
Good afternoon, Denise Gilmore, Legislative and Political Director with AFSCME Maryland, Council 3. We were very pleased to reach an agreement with the department and the administration on paid family leave benefits this last contract negotiation. There's one amendment that is very important to us that we think is consistent with the original family bill that you all passed. It includes a provision to ensure that employees don't have to exhaust their earned leave first before accessing the family leave. It's my understanding that, I don't think this amendment is controversial with the department. I hope it is not, but, it's very important that we make sure that we include that. I don't think it was included in the original bill, but we are favorable with that amendment and urge its favorable report. Thank you.
I'll speak next, if I may, Mr. Chair. I'm Michael Sanderson with the Maryland Association of Counties. A number of our local governments and our representative organizations are here with amendments on this bill. First question might be, why is DBM taking flack on a somewhat unrelated issue? I'll offer public apologies to Madam Secretary and the department. With the mid-session timing of the Department of Labor's intent to extend the timetable for the Global Family Program, we're here before you at this hearing on a semi-tangentially related bill. asking for your help with one administrative thing wherever that happens. If this bill becomes the vehicle for that time extension, whether it's in the budget reconciliation bill, or we will talk to your colleagues in the Economic Matters Committee, whatever the right place is, if you're going to extend the timetable, we have one important ask of you on behalf of public sector employers in particular, but in general for employers who plan to offer a private offering rather than joining the state pool for this family program. Where we sit right now, before the extended timetable, would be that we have not yet been able to get private proposals planned into the Department of Labor to get approved and so forth in time. And we're facing a requirement that the state is going to have our public employers start collecting the payroll tax and escrowing that money, even if we plan not to participate in the state plan. Our ask of you, MACO has submitted written testimony with full amendments for this bill, but they could be dropped into any bill. Please give us an assurance that this time next year, we don't have your counties, municipalities, school systems, libraries, and community colleges uncertain whether their following fiscal year budget has to include these payroll deductions. If we're on a path to a private plan, let us just stay on that path. You know where we live. You don't need us to put money in escrow to get $8,000 of capture or something along those lines. That's our request of you, whether it's this bill or elsewhere. So sorry for the cumbersome nature of a semi-unrelated amendment. This is our venue to get before you to make this important ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Not to reiterate too much of what Michael said on behalf of the counties, Bill George with the Maryland Municipal League in full support of the amendments that Michael described. I think the key for us and what was mentioned is that if there is going to be an opportunity to delay the family program as proposed by the Department of Labor, that this is the opportunity to align the ramp-up period to more closely, to more easily allow public sector employers who are on a state mandated fiscal year schedule to align their budget process accordingly. That's one thing that we've heard from our members is there's a bit of the uncertainty. Our members, our fiscal year starts July 1. And so the budget process starts sometime as early as February, March. And so when planning that budget, and this is a big line item that will become part of their budget, whether that is through the state fiscal, the state fund, or through a private private provider. We're just asking for a little clarity, and this seems like the perfect opportunity with a potential delay in the program in totality to align for our specific needs with the fiscal year requirements. Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm David Johnson, Vice President with Bolton Partners. We're a consultant to the Public Sector Family Collaborative, which is made up of members of the Maryland Municipal League, Maryland Association of Counties, and Maryland Association of Boards of Education. Over 100 public sector employers throughout the state with over 200,000 employees, part of this collaborative that has come together to help governmental and local governmental employers comply with the requirements of the Maryland Time to Care Act in the most cost-effective manner. We're here to also voice support for the legislation with amendments. Echoing the comments of my colleagues here, I believe it is very important for the timeframes to align properly. The key thing in our mind is that the public sector employers throughout Maryland who are able to submit an application to the state by January 1st of 2026 should be able to know by March 1st of 2026, will they have approval to go with a commercially insured equivalent private insurance plan? Echoing the points that Bill and Michael have made, that's very important for local governmental employers from a budgetary standpoint to know by March 1st of 2026 if they will be able to go with a private insurance plan as allowed under the Time to Care Act legislation, and therefore allow them not to have to pay into the state plan beginning when contributions begin for the state plan.
Thank you. Any questions for the panel?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to give you some excellent testimony and say, me too, on behalf of the school boards, on behalf of MABE. Thank you.
Concludes the bill hearing. Delegate Smith, you ready to go on House Bill 1091? Looks like a local bill. Do have 5 witnesses. Usually look pretty favorably on local bills.
Good afternoon, friends and colleagues, and of course to my chair and vice chair. For the record, Delegate Stephanie Smith, and I'm here to present to you House Bill 1091. This is a local Baltimore City bill. You should have already received our letter of endorsement, and it's expanding eligibility for collective bargaining to certain folks that work for the Sheriff's Department, and I know that that will include some of the court clerks as well as some of the deputies of lieutenant, rank lieutenant and below. And so I will yield the remainder of the highlights of the bill to my dear friend and colleague at the Sheriff's Department.
Thank you, Madam Sponsor, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Nicholas Blendy, Assistant Sheriff for the Baltimore City Sheriff's Office. And as Delegate Smith indicated, this bill is designed to sort of make a quick, timely, and urgently needed fix to the statute that authorizes collective bargaining. The initial bill was intended to go one way, which is to allow sheriff's deputies and full-time court security officers to negotiate wages with the local government and all other managerial sort of matters with the sheriff's office. It was determined by, I think, Labor Council for the city that they were confused and they don't believe that it authorizes the bargaining of wages, which is pretty much the fundamental right of a labor union. So this bill is a kumbaya collective fix. I know we have representatives from FOP 22's lodge and their lawyer over here, and I think you have in the file a letter from the mayor's office saying that they support with amendments. I know Ms. Themelis had to run out and said that I could speak on her behalf if she didn't make it back in time. But
we're offering an amendment.
Oh, yeah. And where that is fundamentally this bill fixes that problem by saying right now it has got a section in there that says excluding wages, strikes that, makes it including wages. And as the delegation adopted in their report, in their letter to the committee, there is a technical amendment that sort of strikes a redundant section out that's not needed anymore because the way the bill would be rewritten allows for wages and to be bargained jointly with the sheriff and the city. And that solves the problem. I think everybody here would appreciate that. And I do importantly want to note that the effective date of the bill is June 1st because we are in the middle of negotiations because the current contract expires on June 30th. And so we would ask that you support the delegation's favorable with amendment report, and I'll yield to whoever else needs to testify. Thank you, and happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the committee, I'll be brief. Ari Plout, I'm here on behalf of the Maryland State Fraternal Order Police in support of this bill, House Bill 1091. Thank you, Delegate Smith, for bringing this bill, and thank you to the city delegation for moving this through. This has been several years in the making. We're happy to, all the parties are at the table. And as stated by Mr. Blendy, this gives the ability to bargain wages, which we believe was the original intent. Thank you for the bill, and ask for a favorable, and I'll yield the rest of my time to Mr. Dowdy. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chair, Delegate Smith, and members of the committee, my name, for the record, is Kieran Dowdy. I'm a partner with Schlackman, Belsky, Winter, and Davey, where I serve as labor counsel to the Fraternal Order of Police Lodge 22, which represents Baltimore City Sheriffs. As I would just echo everything they said. This is really a fix to something that happened a few years ago. It was inadvertent. Everybody agrees that we should have the ability to bargain wages. We're the only unit that can't bargain wages in Baltimore City. This would fix that. And we're thankful for everybody's hard work to make sure that this fix will go forward. As Mr. Blendy noted, the effective date is important to us because we are across the table from each other at this moment. And we want to be able to include wages in this round of bargaining. And last but not least, I've had an opportunity to review the amendments. They are technical in nature, and we certainly support with the amendments being offered by the delegation. With that, thank you for your time. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. That ends the bill hearing. We'll move to House Bill 1071. Oh, no, I have one more. Is Nina Themelis? Themelis?
City, she sent a letter.
Okay, perfect. Great. Thanks. All right. 1071, Delegate Forbes, bring on up your panel, if you have one.
Good afternoon, Chair Barnes, Vice Chair Chang, and members of the BEST Committee in the House of Delegates. I'm Delegate Kathy Forbes, and I'm pleased to present HB 1071. It's a collective bargaining bill for supervisory employees of the Baltimore County Public Library. A little bit of history. In 2021, we passed HB 45, allowing the employees of the Baltimore County Library System to engage in collective bargaining. They later chose to join Montgomery County and Prince George's County as the only libraries in the state with unions. In 2024, Delegate Solomon introduced and we passed HB 609, the Library Workers Empowerment Act. This extended the collective bargaining rights to library systems across the state that did not already have those rights. Baltimore County, Montgomery County, and Prince George's County were left out of that bill because they already had established unions. However, the 2024 bill, the Library Workers Empowerment Act, allows 2 bargaining units in each of the jurisdictions, employees and supervisory employees. Prince George's County Library has 3 bargaining units, and all the other library systems covered under the 2024 Library Workers Empowerment Act have the right to establish 2 bargaining units. Baltimore County Public Library System has become an outlier. Our library system does not allow supervisors the right to collectively bargain. The bill before you today maintains the 3 classifications and language from the original bill: employees, supervisors, and managers, and that this bill would create a bargaining unit for those supervisors. This is a bill of parity. The supervisors in our library system are left out of the statewide library collective bargaining bill, and this bill will correct that inequity. There is a letter of support from our delegation in the testimony, and I ask for a favorable report. Thank you.
Next. Okay. Thank you to the Appropriations Committee, Chair Barnes, Vice Chair Chang, and Delegate Forbes. Thank you for allowing me to speak on House Bill 1071. My name is Anita Bass, and I am the proud president of the IAM Local 4538, and I work at one of our Baltimore County branches. I'm here to support this bill because it will enable Baltimore County library supervisors, if they so choose, to unionize. When the Library Workers Empowerment Act was passed, BCPL library workers were not part of that bill because we already had our own law and our own union. Since then, our library supervisors are now requesting that they are included. They want to have a choice to unionize. When you're a non-supervisory staff and you receive a promotion to a supervisory position, you are promoted out of the union and you lose that protection of the union. HB 1071 would keep that protection for them. BCPL managers and supervisors are not involved in negotiations and are not considered confidential employees under HB 1071. Staff members who can be in the union that are part of the supervisory unit, HB 1071 defines supervisors with the authority to hire, transfer, suspend, lay off, recall, promote, discharge, assign, reward, or discipline employees. They can also address and resolve employees' grievances. BCPL library supervisors would like to be able to choose to unionize. This bill does not make them union. This only gives them a choice. Thank you for a favorable report on HB 1071.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the bill sponsor or witness? David Acevedo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Delegate, for bringing the bill. As you know, I'm very supportive of collective bargaining for all workers, and I just wanted to confirm, and I also support this effort here for library workers, but I wanted to make sure that when we're talking about supervisory employees, these are folks who do not have the power to hire and fire, correct?
They do.
They do.
They do.
That's what's in the Library Workers Empowerment Act.
Okay.
We passed last year.
Okay. So, so these supervisors that we're referring to, they don't hire and they don't terminate. Am I understanding that?
No, they do.
No, they do that.
They do.
And
There are
that's-
three, if you look at the bill, there are three classifications: employees, supervisors, and managers. But supervisors do have those responsibilities. And that's in the original bill that we passed for Baltimore County and in the statewide bill.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
You voted for last year.
Good question. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you all.
Online.
Oh, no, we have a number of witnesses. Thank you. So actually, we can take the virtual. They're in favor?
The virtuals.
Okay, go ahead, Bridget. You have 2 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yep, 2 minutes.
Okay. Greetings, Chair Barnes, members of the House Appropriations Committee. My name is Bridget Fitzgerald, and I'm an organizer with the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, which is IAM. I would like to thank you for considering HB 1071. In 2021, the General Assembly passed the enabling legislation for non-supervisory staff in Baltimore County Public Library, BCPL, to form a union to collectively bargain, which they did later that year. Since then, other collective bargaining legislation has passed. Whether these new laws streamlined the process, provided better coordination across public sector, or enable segments of Maryland's public sector employees or supervisory library employees to unionize, each law signaled an expansion of collective bargaining rights within the state of Maryland. The current law applicable to BCPL employees does not apply to supervisors, statutorily defined as employees with the ability to hire, fire, render discipline, direct work, resolve grievances, award employees, among other responsibilities above a routine nature. Supervisors are employees whose duties and responsibilities do not rise to the level of management. HB 71 will not apply to management employees, which, according to both the current law and this proposed bill, are employees who formulate policy, have budgetary oversight, enforce employee relations, as well as retain the inclusive supervisory responsibilities. The proposed legislation requires supervisors to organize into their own unit, separate from the non-supervisory staff. This is done specifically to avoid conflicts of interest while respecting the workers' right to organize with a union of their choosing. The dual unit scenario has long existed within Prince George's County Library System as the model created and is the model created in the passing of the Library Workers Empowerment Act last session and the Public Employees Act.
Yep, you can 1 or 2 concluding sentences.
Oh, I was just going to say, the norms have changed for supervisors across the state, and we do not want to leave Baltimore County Public Library supervisors out in the cold. Therefore, I request a favorable vote.
Thank you. Any questions for the online witness? Okay, thanks for being with us. Have a great day.
Thank you.
2 unfavorable witnesses, Sonia Alcantara and Bernie Marsick.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Bernie Marsick with Cornerstone Government Affairs here today on behalf of Baltimore County Public Library in respectful opposition to House Bill 1071. I did want to provide a little bit of the history. Baltimore County Public Library 4 years ago was presented with a bill right when Ms. Alcantara Antoine came into her position that would allow for employees to collectively bargain. We worked nonstop during that session to come up with an agreement on a piece of legislation and supported that legislation that would allow for these employees to collectively bargain. Specifically addressed 4 years ago was the issue of managers and supervisors that are included in this current legislation. The agreement was to not include them in the legislation. Since the passage of that law, there's been a very good relationship between the library and between the library board and the union. Almost immediately, the union held elections and had their first contract in place.
They've successfully negotiated 4 contracts, including just a couple weeks ago, a contract that was approved by the board and by staff. And there's been open communication and ongoing collaboration. So there has been a very good relationship, and there continues to be a very good relationship. These are indicators that the collective bargaining process is working, and we're happy to support that process. Sonia will give a little bit more details, but we are in opposition to this bill because we do think it creates a conflict of interest. We think it will create challenges for the day-to-day operations by adding in managers and supervisors. And we think there'll be a cost increase for both that will fall on the shoulders of the library, the county. So for those reasons, we would ask for an unfavorable report. Don't touch it. Don't touch it.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Sonia Alcantara-Antoine, and I am the Chief Executive Officer of Baltimore County Public Library. As Bernie stated, 4 years ago, Baltimore County Public Library worked collaboratively with the bill sponsors and the union to create what is now called BCPL's collective bargaining law. And our labor attorney, Sean Malone, was also at the table 4 years ago, helping us to write our law and ensuring that it adhered with standard labor best practices. And we did so willingly and in good faith, never ever opposing the right for Baltimore County Public Library staff to organize. BCPL's law enables our employees to collectively bargain, but specifically prohibits confidential employees, managers, and supervisors from organizing. The current bill seeks to allow managers and supervisors to organize. It goes against standard guidance from the National Labor Relations Act, as well as the good faith agreement that we negotiated 4 years ago, and BCPL opposes this change. It would undermine the ability of our managers and supervisors to carry out their responsibilities objectively. Our managers and supervisors are an extension of me and also library administration. Both managers and supervisors have the authority to hire, transfer, suspend, lay off, recall, promote, discharge, assign, reward, and discipline employees. Both directly address grievances. Both represent library administration on the Labor Management Committee and in labor negotiations. They participate in advocacy and in strategic discussions. Both help us establish and enforce library policies. Every day they make operational decisions that directly affect labor relations. They have a voice in leading BCPL, and we actively develop them as leaders. Including them in a union would create a clear conflict of interest between their duties as representatives of the employer and their interests as union members.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony. Very good. Delegate McCaskill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello there, panel. I have 2 questions around conflict of interest. One, could you give me an example of how it could possibly be a conflict of interest? And 2, throughout the rest of the state, have there been an overwhelming amount of reports of how this collective bargaining with these 2, with supervisors and managers, has been a conflict of interest?
Thank you, Delegate McCaskill. I'll answer the last question first. So, when the statewide collective bargaining bill was being talked about and negotiated, we, Baltimore County Public Library, was explicitly excluded. So we were not asked to weigh in or give any input. Had we been given the opportunity to give input, and or if we had been included in that bill, we would have joined the chorus of voices of opposition from within the library community, leaders who supported the right for their employees to organize, but had deep concerns and reservations about the language that allowed supervisors to organize. And that bill became law, and a number of my colleagues across the state are really struggling with implementation because supervisors are organizing at the same time as their employees. So in terms of the conflict of interest, what I have heard from my colleagues across the state, also, by the way, I'm the past president of the Public Library Association, which represents public libraries across the nation and across Canada. And I hear a lot of the same things, that when managers and supervisors are in a collective bargaining unit, that the conflict of interest steps in, where they are reluctant to hold employees accountable because of solidarity with their employees as union members. And so it's really important for us to have a clear line of demarcation between our supervisors and managers and staff. It's how we're able to hold everybody accountable. It's how we're able to carry out our mission, which is ultimately in service to the residents of Baltimore County.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be quick. So you have in other systems background, I've represented library workers to include supervisors who have been in the collective bargaining unit. And so we have other instances where collective bargaining units have supervisors, like, for example, WMATA, our metro system. How do you, it seems to be working for whether it's WMATA and other public library systems like MCPL or PGCMLS, where they do have supervisors that are in the collective bargaining unit. Are you say what's different about Baltimore County that supervisors can't be in the collective bargaining unit? And then a quick question for the gentleman next to you. You had mentioned that this would increase costs. How are you calculating that cost if supervisors were to be allowed the choice, because this is enabling, right? It doesn't grant them the choice to collectively bargain.
So what I'm hearing from my colleagues, and especially in the library systems that you mentioned, is no, it's not working. And it poses an operational challenge and burden for those organizations to carry out their missions. Another point that needs to be recognized is that when Baltimore County Public Library's collective bargaining law was created, the language about prohibiting confidential managerial and supervisory employees from organizing was cut, copied, and pasted directly from Baltimore County Code. So that is not permitted within Baltimore County government. And so a change in our law will more than likely have a cascading effect on Baltimore County government if and when their employees try to seek parity with Baltimore County Public Library. And they are our primary funder. And so that is a point of concern.
And to the question of cost, I think we can look back from the last 4 years. I'm happy to get the numbers for you as to what the cost has increased. And I don't have those in front of me, but I'm happy to share those with you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a quick question. I'm kind of wondering, has there been any surveys of discord amongst the libraries that you have head over, that you manage in your position?
A survey amongst?
Well, climate survey, that people are disgruntled and there's lots of problems and everything.
So we have a number of fora for people at all levels of the organization to weigh in and talk about the issues that are important to them. I meet regularly with library leadership, and that includes managers, and those are some of the people that would be included in this bill. And together we make big decisions about what's going to happen in the library system. I also meet regularly with all of our management groups. I meet regularly with branches, department staff, and they're meeting with each other. And so there's constant engagement with all the people in the organization. And so, and in addition, we now have our labor management committee, and we've had that for 4 years. And it gives us an opportunity to discuss openly issues that are happening within the organization and then proactively address them. In the 4 years that we have been a collective bargaining environment, we have had very little grievances because we are able to directly address and immediately address the issues that do crop up.
So would it be fair to characterize the climate for your library system as pretty good?
I would say so. I will say unequivocally, no shade to the other library systems in the state, but I really do feel that Baltimore County Public Library is one of the best.
Well, personally, I think working in a library is probably very soothing compared to the Maryland General Assembly. So anyway, thank you very much.
Contrary to popular belief, we don't sit around reading books all day. There's a lot of excitement happening in libraries. We are ultimately public serving institutions. We're here to serve our public. And in Baltimore County Public Library, I will say that we do that with pride and distinction, and we do it very well. Thank you.
We love our libraries. Delegate Solomon.
Thank you for your support.
Tell Comus you could get a job at the public library. It may be a little more soothing around here, you know.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I appreciate you both being here. I guess this is less of a question and more of a comment. As the sponsor of the library's bill last year, I just wanted to say we spent hours working with the library systems from across the state. Still have a little bit of the battle scars. And there was a lot of thought and a lot of back and forth and a lot of compromise that went into that bill, as well as I know the vice chair had a bill last year to give supervisory employees in our state workforce the right to unionize. We did not give managers the right to unionize. We still, managers are a separate entity unit. So I just wanted to say again, that was not a willy-nilly throw something out there. We spent months and hours working on that bill and in collaboration with your colleagues from across the state, and I just wanted the record to reflect that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions? On the Baltimore County Library bill. Okay. Thank you all for being with us. Thanks for your testimony, and thanks for the work you do.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, let's move to House Bill 971, Delegate Pruski. You have some people with you, Delegate? You can, please. Thank you. Oh, and I missed. Susan, I'll get right back to you. Actually, hold on. You know what? I'm going to just call really quickly. House Bill 793, this is the annual bonding for USM. Okay. Any questions? I cover it? Okay. That includes the bill hearing. Perfect. House Bill 971, Delegate Pruski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the committee. I am Delegate Andrew Pruski, introducing HB 971, Anne Arundel County Crownsville Hospital Memorial Park Advisory. For the purpose of the bill, it's establishing a park advisory committee to make recommendations, but I thought it'd be important for this committee to understand why. For those of you that don't know, Crownsville Hospital was a state-owned psychiatric facility operating in Crownsville, Maryland, just up the road from us. It operated from 1911 to 2004. The overwhelming majority of the patients held at this facility were African American and certainly had a troubled history, and includes mistreatment of these patients. In December of 2022, the property was turned over to Anne Arundel County. There are still deed restrictions on the property with some of the buildings, and they need state approval, and many of the buildings are historical. Anne Arundel County has plans to improve the property, and a master plan was recently released by the county with a focus on the remembrance for those that were patients at the facility, but also healing, mental health, and education. So why would we bring this bill to the state? Due to the complex nature of the property, the need of both local, state, and regional partners, we are requesting the advisory committee be enacted to continue the work to provide advice on this project. I'm not going to read through for the economy of words. I'll limit to that we have representatives on this advisory from the governor's office, county council, many historical folks. We have folks from Bowie State University, the Anne Arundel County Budget Officer who's sitting next to me, the Office of Equity and Human Rights, and then 7 members of the that would be appointed by the county executive. I do want to highlight that there are some amendments, and this was in discussion with the governor's office and many other folks that had some interest. And the amendment would include the executive director of the governor's office of community initiatives, and also the executive director of the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture and designee, and we do support those amendments. This is about bringing people together to make sure we honor not only the property to move things forward. I thank you for your time today and ask for a favorable report on House Bill 971.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, I'm Chris Trumbauer. I'm the Anne Arundel County Budget Officer, but I'm before you today as the chair of the County Executive's Crownsville Advisory Committee. I want to thank Chairman Pruski of the delegation for bringing this forward. This is a great bill, and my understanding is it passed unanimously from the delegation, and it also won't cost you anything. So it's a good thing to do. If you haven't seen our report, it's 220 pages. It's super awesome. In summary, it recommends a path forward for the Crownsville site. It honors the history that happened there, and it protects the environmental features, and it really establishes a plan to continue to offer behavioral health services. So we feel that this bill is important because it will underscore the public outreach that we've done so far as a county, and it will keep that going. And that will keep the public public and interested stakeholders informed and involved in this process that will probably take dozens of years to bring to reality. But I did want to use my last seconds just to thank the committee as a whole for your support in giving the county the property and a little bit of spending cash along with it a few years ago. And I want to thank the members of the committee that have come out on one of our tours, and certainly the vice chair and Delegate Jones and other members of the delegation for putting this forward. So
I just wanted to ask the vice chair, what was a little bit of spending cash? 30 million, that's a little bit.
Very helpful, Mr. Chair. It's been very helpful.
Mr. Vice Chair, Hannah Dyer.
Hannah Dyer, Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for the county, and I am just here for questions. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, thank you all.
Thank you, Mr.
Chairman, good to see you.
Thank you.
Is there another witness here, Lawrence Walker? No? Yes, Lawrence? Come on up.
Good afternoon, Chair Barnes, members of the committee. My name is Lawrence Walker. I am the Executive Director of the Governor's Office of Community Initiatives, and we are here in favor of HB 971 with amendments, as you heard. The Crownsville Hospital Memorial Park was built in 1911 by the hands of 12 African-American men who would become its first residents. This facility was the site of trauma, of brutality, of experimentation that must never be forgotten. The Crownsville Hospital was the site of 30-year-old Baltimorean William Murray, lost his life there. And before being admitted to this hospital, Mr. Murray was a Howard University graduate, a school teacher, a principal, a music professional, and a father. He suffered the effects of typhoid fever and depression and was admitted to Crownsville, where he was brutally beaten to death. He is perhaps most known by his daughter, the Reverend Dr. Polly Murray, who was a prominent civil rights advocate and activist, a lawyer, a scholar, a theologian, and an author. We are here to ask you to support the amendment because the Governor's Office of Community Initiatives has the pulse and is very connected to the community, and we believe it's important to have someone representing the community also on this committee to make sure that we keep the historical perspective of this facility. Thank you for your approval.
Well, thank you, and thank you for reminding us of the historical perspective. Very important. Yes, we'll see if you have any questions for you, sir. There probably won't be, but you never know. So thank you. We have your amendment?
Yes.
Okay. The committee has it. Good. Any other questions? All right. Thank you. Thanks for your testimony. Concludes the bill hearing. Somebody here from St. Mary's County?
Can you miss me?
We got one half of the Morgans.
The good Morgan you got.
I know, they sent the right Morgan probably.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chair.
I was going to mess with the other Morgan about, the bonding authority and, taxpayers in St. Mary's County, but with you, we're just going to let it go. Go ahead.
Thank you for your generosity. Hey, I'm Delegate Todd B. Morgan, not the other Matt Morgan. We're not related, in case you were wondering. I'm bigger, I'm better looking. He drinks beer, I drink bourbon. Just so you know, honest facts. I'm here asking today for your approval of a bonding authority for St. Mary's County, Maryland, in amount of $76 million. It's to finance other programs and projects throughout the county. It was approved by the delegation, and it was in third reader over in the Senate with no amendments. And I know your time is valuable, so I ask for a favorable report.
Any questions on the bonding authority for St. Mary's? Good to see you.
Thanks, sir.
Have a good one.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Carroll County's bonding authority, 833. Somebody here from, man, we know we can't mess with Stanco, so.
I don't have the pull to sit at my desk and say approved. Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, I'm here on behalf of the Carroll County delegation asking for a favorable report on HB 833. It's for $36.9 million in bonding authority, and the County Board of Commissioners were aligned with that number. I asked for a favorable report. Any questions? Happy to answer.
Quick question. So, you know, when I get on the metro and the gates are wide open, how does this bill help close the gates?
A question I continuously ask myself every day.
Just wondering.
All right, good job. That concludes the bill hearing. House Bill 1054. Delegate Wu here? Okay, we're going to move him to the back. Is Delegate Kramer here? Well, I'm going to give them both 1 minute since we just moved so fast, and that's fair, but they get 1 minute, and then the chair will do the bills. Delegate Wu, come on up. 1054. Do you have a panel? Bring him up.
I think we have panel from the audit committee. Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Bond, Vice Chair Chang, and the members of the Appropriations Committee. For the record, I'm Delegate Wu, representing District 9A, representing Howard and Montgomery counties. Today, I seek your support for HB 1054, a bill requiring University System Maryland Board of Regents report the amount of state university funds allocated to each high-impact economic development activity and assess their effectiveness. HB 1054 originates from the Joint Audit and Evaluation Committee, chaired in the House by Delegate Solomon in this committee. It is cross-filed at SB 439 and based on the hearing and audit conducted last year on HIDAS. The HIDAS program was established over a decade ago by the Maryland General Assembly to give University System of Maryland flexibility in launching initiatives with the potential to drive community impact and commercialization. It allowed certain institutions within the system spin off programs and services while being exempt from certain state procurement laws. The intended benefit of this hiatus includes job creation, workforce development, technology transfer, entrepreneurship, and increased research funding. However, recent investigation, particularly an audit by the Department of Legislative Service in August 2024, have raised significant concern. The audit revealed that ventures, a company created under the HIDAS program, squandered $25.7 million from UMGC on an abandoned student information system project. One key issue was that ventures was not subject to procurement laws, preventing UMGC from fully evaluating competitive contract options. Further findings indicate that these hiatus have failed to generate substantial revenue beyond UMGC's own investment. For example, financial audit from 2017 to 2022 showed that over 90% of ventures revenue, $198.1 million of its total $215.3 million come directly from UMGC. Additionally, the lack of oversight has led to troubling consequences, such as UMGC laying off employees while touting that's cost saving. This outsourcing service through HIDAS is really a bad practice. This lack of regulation extends beyond ventures. For example, UMGC spent more than $500 million on advertising contracts that failed to increase enrollment, demonstrating an urgent need for greater oversight of HIDAS-related expenditures. HB 1054 aims to address these issues by reforming procurement laws to ensure HIDAS are subject to oversight and fiscal accountability. protecting university employees from job losses due to subcontracting arrangements made without proper regulation, ensuring USM evaluates multiple contracts rather than relying sole contracts that may not deliver effective economic outcome. Additionally, we will hear testimony from professors and researchers, including Professor Tom Abraham and Professor Ming Wu, who will share their experience and concerns about the challenges posed by certain regulations and USM administrators. I deeply appreciate their engagement and insight. I'm committed to working with this committee and explore ways to refine policies, making it easier for faculty to transform their ideas into successful ventures in the future. Thank you.
Go ahead, sir. 2 minutes.
Thank you, Delegate Wu, Chair Barnes, Vice Chair Chang, and the members of the Appropriations Committee. My name is Adam Westover. I'm an audit manager with the Office of Legislative Audits. With me is Josh Adler. He's a director with our office in the Compliance and Performance Division. Our office cannot take a position on House Bill 1054, but we can discuss our recent audit that Delegate Wu mentioned about UMGC. Under state law, a HIDA may be established to promote economic interests of the state in areas such as job creation, commercialization, and entrepreneurship. Proposals for establishing a HIDA entity must be presented to the USM Chancellor. State law currently provides for an exemption from state procurement law when an institution is obtaining services from a HIDA it created. In June of 2016, the USM Board of Regents approved a HIDA entity called UMGC Ventures. It's a tax-exempt holding company for businesses commercialized by UMGC. In June of 2017, the USM Board of Regents approved another HIDA called AccelRed, which is the spinoff of its former Office of Technology. The subsidiary company offers professional information technology services for a fee to educational institutions, including UMGC. We attempted to review certain activity related to UMGC's HIDAs and UMGC's oversight. In response to several of our requests for information and documentation, such as procurement policies and agreements between the HIDA and subcontractors, UMGC stated that it was unable to meet our requests, further advising because of IRS regulations regarding the tax-exempt status granted to ventures and its subsidiaries, UMGC must remain at arm's length from them. That's the second finding of our report talks about procurement. UMGC obtained information technology services from UMGC Ventures totaling $184 million from November 2018 to December 2022 without any competitive procurement and without any verification that the amounts paid were proper. State law and USM policy do not require, but also do not prohibit, an institution to use a competitive procurement process when acquiring services from a HIDA. UMGC did not attempt to competitively procure these services and instead depended solely on ventures, according to UMGC, to ensure the best vendor was selected. UMGC disagreed with our recommendation related to this, citing the exemption from state finance and procurement law related to HIDAs. We included an auditor comment in a report that explained we noted this fact in the report, and we still felt it would be a good idea to competitively procure these services. The third finding of the report that Delegate Wu talked about involved an IT project that cost $25.7 million that had to be abandoned because the system did not work. In July of 2018, UMGC contracted with AccelRed through its agreement with Ventures to replace its current student information system at a cost of $19 million, plus licensing costs, which determined to be $2.6 million, for a total cost of $21.6 million. AccelRed subcontracted this work to a third-party contractor with the initial go-live date of January of 2020. The project was stopped and canceled in June of 2021 after an independent vendor prepared a report for UMGC and Ventures outlining significant deficiencies with the current status and direction of the project. At this point, the project cost had reached $25.7 million and the system was abandoned. There were a number of detailed recommendations we made to UMGC that we will assess during our next audit. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to take any questions on our audit. And again, we don't have a position on the bill. We're just here for questions about the audit.
Thank you very much to the bill sponsor and to the Office of Legislative Audits. Are there any questions from members of the committee or to the bill sponsor? Okay, great.
Thank you.
A couple witnesses here. We have Thomas Abrams with the University of Maryland, Min Woo, Miroslav Janowski with the University of Maryland, Baltimore. Each of you, if you could provide 2-minute testimony, thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members. I'm Tom Abrams from the School of Medicine, University of Maryland, and I'm here today to testify in strong support of HB 1054, but with an important amendment. This is a very critical bill to prevent fraud, but fraud committed by university administrators. The restriction on direct participation in startup companies should not be applied to faculty members. Faculty inventors should be encouraged to effectively lead the companies that they create to commercialize their inventions. COI for inventors at USM can be precisely and appropriately regulated. I want to make 2 major points. First, Maryland and Nova is a venture capital desert. In an analysis of 10 biotech regions nationally, we lead in the number of patents, but we're at the very bottom of biotech regions in attracting venture capital. Normalized for number of patents, we're 30-fold worse than LA and 10-fold worse than Chicago. For the past 2 years, I've been co-chair of the Research Committee of the Council of University System Faculty, or CUSIF, and I've tried to understand why we have such a poor track record of commercialization. One serious obstacle turns out to be critical. University administrators apply COI restrictions in an extreme and capricious manner. Many faculty are told they're not allowed to assume leadership roles in the companies that they launch, and this is devastating. The founding inventor must be visible if a company is to attract investors. Tech companies that start out with no direct leadership from faculty inventors typically are unsuccessful. Second, I want to tell you that innovative researchers are unique. They make unique discoveries. When research entrepreneurs leave Maryland because of unfavorable policies, this has a dramatic effect on our state economy. Innovative investigators once lost cannot be easily replaced. Finally, I just want to emphasize that innovative researchers who launch companies are not criminals. In a study over 8 years that surveyed illegal COI problems across academia and medicine, none involve startup companies. So to summarize, Maryland should be sending the clear message that our universities support scientific innovation and the effective commercialization of transformative discoveries. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Professor Min Woo, working in engineering and computing at University of Maryland College Park, and also as Associate Dean for Graduate Education. Here, I testify in support of the Bill HB 1054 with an important amendment. While we must protect Maryland universities from irresponsible actors and fraud, it is crucial to keep the original waiver on conflict of interest for faculty researchers so that University of Maryland inventors can take substantial roles and be productive in tech startups. In the past several years at University of Maryland, the COI policies regulating faculty taking on leadership roles in startups has become more restrictive and less appealing as compared with other public universities in California, North Carolina, and Washington State. These other states have benefited tremendously from the revenues and jobs from the successful faculty startups. In contrast, we lost multiple faculty colleagues at University of Maryland because of the highly restrictive COI policies. The implementations of these policies at times lack sound justification and sound consistency. You can see from the letters by the wireless sensing inventor, Professor Liu, and the quantum computing professor, Professor Monroe. They talk about the negative impact of the new COI policy, making it extremely difficult to recruit and retain talented faculty, including these 2 visionary professors. This year, for our state, with economic challenges and shrinking federal support, the legislature has the power and the responsibility to support enhancing the economic benefits from innovations by university researchers. So as a first step, please amend the bill to keep the original COI waiver for faculty. Thank you.
My name is Miroslav Janowski, and I'm testifying as a private individual and business owner. I'm a neurosurgeon by training and a professor at the University of Maryland School of Medicine. I'm also a council of the university system faculty member, representing 16,000 faculty members. Moreover, I'm co-chair of the QSEF Research Committee, which addresses the most critical research-related issues across the system. As a scientist working in a highly innovative, multidisciplinary field spanning drug delivery, neurodegenerative and neuro-oncological diseases, imaging, and molecular biology, I'm deeply invested in developing solutions that enhance the efficacy of therapeutic interventions. Based on my know-how, I launched a startup TICOM in Poland because of multiple obstacles, which importantly include restriction against the faculty researchers leading tech companies here. We opened this company in Poland. The expertise and approach developed by myself and my colleague, Professor Walczak, are unique. Engineers from the biggest medical device company, Medtronic, travel from California to northern Poland to refine their prototypes with TICOM. Recently, severe restrictions at the University of Maryland on faculty serving as officers in companies that they found significantly hinder commercialization efforts. These restrictions are applied inconsistently. A few faculty are given waivers that permit them to lead companies, though typically for a brief time. There is no rationale given to justify what appears to be favoritism. A number of colleagues are leaving Maryland for more supportive universities. These restrictions must be considered to facilitate greater innovation-driven economic growth in Maryland and accelerate the translation of scientific breakthroughs in real-world applications. Scientists are visionary startup leaders, but VCs are reluctant to invest in companies lacking innovative leadership. Therefore, if we want to attract more investment to the state, especially in this important time, we need to ensure that our faculty will have a leadership role as long as it is necessary from the company perspective in the companies they launch, the commercialize their discoveries. So I'm also in favor with this very important amendment. Thank you.
Questions for the panel?
There's one more online.
Yep, we'll get the other one. Thank you. Figured we'd let you guys get going if you could. All right, thank you so much. We do have an online witness, John. Just says John there. Welcome, you have 2 minutes. Go ahead, John.
Here we go. Good afternoon.
There you
I'm John Hamlin, a professor at the University of Maryland at Baltimore, UMB. I'm here to speak for Dr. Mark Simard, who is a faculty member at UMB, who, as I speak, is actually operating in the neurosurgery OR, and of course couldn't be here. Dr. Simard is an internationally recognized neurosurgeon with a long-standing interest in stroke. Several years ago, Dr. Simard discovered a process that causes the brain to swell after stroke and developed a therapy that blocks the swelling and many of the adverse consequences. That therapy, aside from its societal impact, is probably worth billions of dollars annually. Remedy Pharmaceuticals Incorporated was formed to develop the therapy, and Dr. Simard had direct roles on the company's science advisory board and the board of directors. He states, quote, "My direct involvement with our startup company was highly important to its success," close quotes. The point is that investors want access to inventors to bring new technology to market. Those inventors typically are university faculty. Switching gears, my colleagues and I have just completed a clinical trial for the first time to prevent acute kidney injury. There is no treatment for that. The anticipated market here is around about $1 billion, and I expect it to continue as a UMB faculty member while also initiating a startup company in Maryland. HB 1054, as written, would seem to deny that possibility. This bill would discourage UM faculty for initiating startups. It will be counterproductive intellectually and economically for the state. To sum up, the events at UM Global Campus are indeed disturbing. I say that as a taxpayer. However, the critical concern is that a cure for what appears to be a single isolated problem should not mushroom into something far worse than the disease itself. So I endorse the proposed amendment to HB 1054 that Dr. Abrams is suggesting. Thank you very much.
Okay, any questions for a virtual witness? Okay, thank you, sir, for being with us. Have a great day. Thank you all. That concludes the bill hearing. We'll move to, is Doug Grammer now finally with us? Doug Grammer, there you go. Come on up. House Bill 356.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll get started when you're ready.
You're ready.
Signed up to. Got one more. For 1054, it came on my display that I was signed up for this. Maybe it is missing, and sometimes I know it's a.
Come on up. We'll give you 2 minutes. Come on up. We're going to go back to 10:54, and we'll give our last witness 2 minutes. Yes, sir.
Thank you for giving me the chance. And there's some interesting results I wanted to share. And as I've mentioned before, my name is Hussein Wahid. I'm with the Transformative Economic Efficiency Initiative linked to the Advanced Technology Acceleration with University of Maryland, College Park. And I've been pointing out the role that specifications and standards play in delivering transformative economic efficiency and also in reducing costs. The examples I have cited do not involve money expenditures. They rely on verifications in the field. And it just so happened that in February, we came across the data covering last 5 years, and we were able to justify the economic efficiency of $500 million delivered during this time period, and up to 2030, basically about $70 million a year. And we went back and looked, it was like 2 to 3 months of effort. And that too was a very open, reproducible, transparent format, any engineer or even an intern could reproduce. And so it led us to this conclusion that we need to enhance the utilization of these methodologies. We found even greater versatility in that data that we came across more or less accidentally. It just showed that, a lot of the research that has been done can be applied to deliver transformative economic efficiency without any delays. And the only barrier that we can see is administrative provisions, administrative coordination that may not fully understand the scope.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Any last comment?
Yep. My last comment is these methodologies are part of a proposal, as pilot guideline bills, and eventually they'll become standardized for the state of Maryland. But it has taken very long for us to get to this stage.
Good. Thank you for being with us and lending your testimony. Thank you, sir. Any questions for the witness? All right. Have a good day, sir. Delegate, we're still here. Go back to 356.
Still kicking. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Delegate Robin Grammer here to present House Bill 356. House Bill 356 restores the prescription drug benefit in the State Employee and Retiree Health and Welfare Benefits Program to those employed prior to July 1st, 2011. This is a constituent request, but one that is supported by thousands of Marylanders. Maryland retirees who lost coverage under the state's prescription drug benefit alterations feel they were promised coverage that they worked for and was taken from them. Thousands of Marylanders gave their youth in service to the state for a benefit they thought would be there and that they would come to rely on. I'd like to share a story that closely resembles the predicament faced by many Marylanders who are suffering from the decision of this body to revoke coverage. Ms. Pullen took nearly a 50% pay cut to leave the private sector and work for the state. She did so for the benefits package and planning for her retirement. She retired in 2023 and for coverage had to sign up for Medicare Parts A and B. She will be required to find a Medicare Part D drug plan that covers the current prescription drugs of her and her husband. Her preliminary cost analysis shows the astronomical out-of-pocket cost she will bear, even with the so-called cap. Next year, she will likely forgo some of her most needed prescription drugs due to the lack of coverage and financial hardship. With this decision, we are forcing the most vulnerable Marylanders, those who are most subject to the pressures of inflation, those on fixed incomes, to go without prescription drug coverage during the most vulnerable years of their lives. We should honor our promise, we should protect the vulnerable, and we should restore the coverage to those who work to ensure and fully expected it to be there. With that, I'd be happy to take questions and ask for a favorable on House Bill 356.
Questions for the bill sponsor? Okay, thank you so much for being with us. James Roberts, Fatima Wahid.
Me. Yeah. My name is Hussein Wahid, and I'm with the Advanced Technology Acceleration Initiative with the University of Maryland College Park. I had already stated that the Advanced Lifecycle Engineering Center in University of Maryland is ranked #1 in the country, and many of the people who work there have retired, and they asked me several times, what happened with this prescription drug plan, the changes, and I had told them that I would do something about it, but I never got a chance, and I really appreciate that this thing was put together. I have a way to respond to them. And it is not just the ones who have retired, they come back and provide the advice, and they make all these things feasible. The algorithms, the methodologies that I talked about are without any charge. And their work and their input is also never paid for. And the only way one can appreciate is to respond to all their needs at present time. And it sets a very good example for the young ones who are working on such initiatives, who go out far different corners of the world to compete and bring back the knowledge and apply it here. They can see how well, a state is taking care of those who have served for initiatives and for the advancement of technology and for the acceleration of it to deliver low-cost results or no-cost results to the citizens. So it's a great proposal to change. And I also thought we need to address the needs of those who have contributed so much to Maryland and to economy in different places, that there has to be a better way of interacting, utilizing their knowledge asset that still exists.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for being with us in your testimony. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm James Roberts. I'm the president of the Towson University Retired Faculty Association. I ask that the committee give a favorable report with amendments to HB 356. Many retirees are now paying more for their prescriptions. The Medicare Part D plan is not equivalent to the state plan that we had. The formularies for the Medicare Part D plan do not cover as many drugs as the state plan. Many Part D plans require a co-insurance as opposed to a co-pay, which means that some of these retirees are paying up to 50% of the retail cost for their drugs. The policies that the state created to give some relief are not working. The HRA, the health reimbursement arrangement, can easily be spent literally within the first week of the year. So it doesn't really cover much in the way of especially for these uncovered drugs. That HRA, though, is not available to 7,000 retirees because they retired after the arbitrary date of January 1st, 2020. The life-sustaining drug program is exceptionally burdensome. The drugs have to be on a formulary that exists within the state of Maryland's current prescription plan. The retirees must get their doctors to submit a formulary request, and that has to be rejected twice and be reviewed by an independent panel. Finally, that program only works as a reimbursement, which means that the retiree has to pay upfront and then hope for reimbursement later. The amendments that I propose are
just get them to us. We'll look at them.
Sorry?
Just make sure we have the amendments.
Well, they are in my written testimony.
Perfect.
And they generally cover these issues. Please consider these amendments, and please give 356 a favorable report. At least give it a vote. We've never had a vote.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Your time is up, sir.
And it's time that you stand.
Any questions for the witnesses? I don't see any. Thank you both for being with us. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to be with us, sir. It's really important. Thank you. We have online witnesses, so let's bring them up. Don McCord, how are you doing? 2 minutes. Yep, there you go. 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Sir, your time is running, so you might want to start testifying, my friend. Don McCord. There you
Okay,
go.
thank you, sir. Just got you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, distinguished committee members. I'm Donald McCord, retired lieutenant with the Maryland State Police. I'm testifying on behalf of the Maryland State Police Alumni Association and Maryland Troopers Association in support of House Bill 356. We're now more than 2 months into the operational phase of the new Medicare Part D program. I'd like to highlight just a few of the many issues that have come to light thus far. First, out-of-pocket expenses for many retirees have increased significantly, and in some cases more than tripled. Increased premiums, higher co-pays, new out-of-pocket expenses for basic supplies that were once covered and no longer are. Many retirees have been forced to revert back to ineffective medications by insurance companies for cost savings to the insurance carrier at the retiree's detriment. Overall, formularies are now more restrictive. Medications that were once covered now not being offered. I discovered a retiree with nearly 50 years of service that was found not to be eligible for the HRA program because of their retirement date. And there's no provisions to address annual inflationary adjustments. The operational phase of this transition has allowed us to identify problems and inadequacies of the current laws and policies enacted. The system that has been forced upon us is complex at best, undermines and devalues the sacrifices retirees have made on behalf of the state of Maryland. I would encourage this committee to issue a favorable vote for this bill or recommend an independent committee be formed with retiree participation to study the impact and recommend a comprehensive solution to the Medicare Part D program as it now stands.
Thank you, Don. That's 2 minutes. Let's see if there's any questions for Mr. McCord. Thank you so much for being with us. Very important. Yes,
Thank you,
Dave and Kathy, welcome. You have 2 minutes. I see your audio is still turning on, so we won't turn the timer on for you yet, but we do need you to connect. It's not connecting, sir. We're going to have to put the timer on soon. Do you hear us? You can nod if you can hear us. Dave? I assume you're Dave. Okay, you're on. We're going to start your timer. Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. Yes, my name is Dave Nepper. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, go ahead.
My name is Dave Nepper. I was employed by the Department of... I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Your timer's on. You keep testifying.
Yep. My name's Dave. I was employed by the Department of State Police for 24 years. Prior to MSP, I had a good career in the U.S. Army. I was active duty Chief Warrant Officer, helicopter instructor pilot. And
Are you finished, sir?
no, this computer's messed up, but I left active duty for a career in law enforcement. And a deciding factor choosing Maryland State Police was the benefits package, not only as an active employee, but also as in retirement. Losing the prescription plan has been very disheartening. And from my perspective, I'm sorry, I'm thinking we're having a big computer issue here.
Nope, you're not having any problem on our end at all, sir. You're coming right through.
Well, losing the prescription plan has been very disheartening and makes one believe that they're unappreciated after years of service and sacrifice. From my perspective, the transition to Medicare Part D, it's not been seamless or less costly as advertised or championed. A couple of examples that I have from my experience are following. I've been assessed a penalty on my Medicare Part D premium. They tell me that I did not have drug coverage that met Medicare minimum standards from May 1st last year to December 31st, which is not true. I've appealed and filed a review of that, and I've not heard anything yet. There have been denials, and the cost is more costly than previously. One example is a lidocaine patch. I take that from an old injury that I had on duty. for a shoulder injury. It's not a prescription controlled substance. It has been denied several times, and the cost is 3 times what I paid before.
Sir, we thank you for your service, and we did let you go a little longer because I know you're having some technical difficulties, but go ahead and summarize if you can.
Well, I'm very in favor of reinstating what this bill is, to reinstate drug benefits for people hired before July 1st. So I appreciate your time and a favorable vote. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for being with us. We appreciate
Yes.
it.
Bye.
Ken, is that Ken Fitch with us? Welcome. You can just turn it on. You have 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. My name's Ken Fitch. I've been in this fight for 7 years. It's Fitch v. Maryland. I've been going down this 2 paths. I was going down legislatively, every year gotten a bill submitted, and legally. During that time, I'm assuming the large group of state retirees who invested in this benefit and had to transition to Medicare Part D without the state subsidy. In January of 25, I've received reviews about the VA program. They're horror stories. I attached them when I sent my written testimony in. I also passed them to the sponsor of the bill. I also passed them to Delegate Barnes. They're horror stories. I'm telling you, they're horror stories. Just like these other people are testifying how expensive the drugs are. These people are going to lose their homes. So I'm asking if you could please vote favorable to this and put it on the floor for a vote. You would not treat your parents this way. Hopefully not. You wouldn't treat your grandparents this way. So it's just awful. The bill is awful. We need to pass HB 356.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for your testimony, all your service
Thank
to
you.
our state.
Favorable
Any
vote.
questions? Thank you. Any questions? I don't see any. Deborah Hill, you're up. 2 minutes. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You have 2 minutes. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you, Chairman Grammer. Chairman Barnes, and I'd like to thank Delegate Robin Grammer for presenting this bill. State retirees are seeking retirement of the subsidy that reduces prescription drug costs for Medicare Part D for elderly and disabled state retirees who were hired prior to July 1st, 2011. This group of retirees was already decreasing due to normal mortality rates. However, now with the subsidy elimination, the length of time their length of time on this earth has been shortened drastically. I urge this legislature to think about these retirees who are in their 70s and 80s who are unable to afford their medication. These people contributed not only monetarily to the state, but gave their employment years to ensure the receipt of this benefit. This specific group of retirees, state retirees, are not seeking a handout. They paid for this benefit during their working years, and they earned it with their years of service. So I challenge you, what's the point of being alive if you don't at least try to do something remarkable? Give the gift of life to the elderly and the disabled with a favorable ruling on HB 356. Thank you for your time.
Hey, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Hill? Okay, thanks a lot for being with us. That concludes the bill hearing. You have a great day. All right, committee, we are adjourned.